You're listening to the Colts Blue Zone Podcast with Mike Chappell and Dave Griffiths.
Inside Fox 59, CBS 4 podcast studio, welcome to the Colts Blue Zone Podcast. Alongside Matt Adams and Mike Chappell, I'm Dave Griffiths. So glad to have you along here on the Fox 59 Now app on Roku TV, Fire TV, Apple TV, or on YouTube if you're watching there.
Good plugs, Dave.
Thank you. I do my best. I finally got them all in my memory.
I have subscriptions to most of those.
You have to get them, yeah. If you don't, come on, let's go. Come on, get on it. And if you're watching or listening, I should say, on just the old-fangled old person's podcast device, which is there you go. The ancient technology by now, I guess.
Stop rubbing it in.
We certainly appreciate you guys still doing that and subscribing to us to get us delivered to your podcast listening device every week. This week, we are talking about the schedule because the NFL has released its full schedule for the 2020. Yes, they did.
I must have missed it.
You missed it? How could you miss it? The NFL, but seriously, Mike, the NFL is like no other league or no other organization in sports because they will take something that seems minuscule from an offseason that lasts 7 months of the year. And they play 5 months, but the other 7 months, there's always something that they can latch onto and promote like heck. They have brilliant people in marketing over the years that have made big things out of things like the combine, the draft, the schedule release now for crying out loud. And the NFL is always at the top of our consciousness, even if the Pacers are on their way to another Eastern Conference Finals.
Well, in the draft, they've turned it into a 3-day event, and they would probably turning into a 7-day event if they could. And if they did that, the 7th round would have nice ratings.
Yep.
It's amazing how their marketing people have turned this into a 11-month of the year. You know, they give you the middle of June and the middle of July.
Thank you for that. Yes.
Off.
Little break.
And with the schedule, it didn't used to be this way. We used to get an email, this is our schedule. And now it's not only is their schedule release day, which again was Wednesday, they're so-called leaks. They're not leaks because they're putting it out there.
Right.
But, you know, they
tantalizing
give
tidbits.
you international. We knew that the Colts were going to Berlin in 6 weeks ago, 2 months, owners meetings. And then the days leading up to the schedule release, they have, these are all the international games. This is the kickoff game. It's just amazing. We've known who the Colts were playing since last year. Mm-hmm. There's a rotational schedule. And you know all but 2 teams who you're going to play. But it's amazing. There's a lot of things that I don't like about the NFL. They're going to have flag football in the Olympics, and they're going to see if owners agree to allow NFL players play. If I'm an owner, do I want Patrick Mahomes play? You know, I mean, non-contact injuries. But the schedule release, it's amazing. And everybody watches, and it's really, truly amazing how they've milked this for as much as they can.
I'll make my point about the Olympics. Like they should have guys like a Sam Ellinger being a quarterback in that. Like not your first, not your second string, but if there's a third string guy, that's still going to be the best in the world. Right. You would think a Team USA like that get some wildly athletic guys and go to work.
In one name I'll throw out there, Robert Edwards.
Yep.
Was it in the
Patriots running back?
Was it the late 90s?
I believe so.
And it was flag football on the beach.
On the beach, in
and
the
he
sand.
He was a first or second, or maybe a rookie running back, a good guy. And
1,400 rushing yards.
Blew out his knee.
Yeah.
And I realize that's a one-off, but you see guys having non-contact injuries all the time, and I've never been a big fan of having pros in the Olympics, although the rest of the world does. I really don't want to see the Michael Pittmans and Josh Downs and Patrick Mahomes playing in the Olympics. It's a bridge too far for me.
Yeah, Downs would be a pretty good player in flag football.
Those are the kind of guys you want.
Exactly, for sure. But let's hope that probably doesn't come to pass. Let's get to the Colts schedule. We've got a graphic if you're watching, like I said, on YouTube or on Fox 59 now with all these games that the Colts have this year. We have them in order. They begin on Sunday, September 7th, Week 1, a 1 p.m. kickoff against the Miami Dolphins. So 1 home game to start, actually 2 home games to start with the Denver Broncos immediately after that. Chap, I think that this is a start that is crucially important for the Colts because they're playing teams that are right around in the area where they're expected to be. Exactly. Like they were 8-9 last year, the Colts. So were the Dolphins, an 8-9 team, and the Broncos were 10-7, just one game better, and by that margin, they made the playoffs last year. So, I mean, we're going to get to the other games later. There's a lot of teams that you would expect and hope to beat. There's a lot of other teams that are challenging from last year, playoff teams that you certainly don't know. But these two teams, right off the bat, it could be a very important start at the end of the year. This is not like the NBA where you can overcome a 3 or 4 game losing streak in November. Not at all. Like if you start off on the wrong foot, which the Colts have done.
The Pacers, 9-15?
Something like that,
something like that. And
look where they are now. But if you're the Colts and you get off onto a bad start, it could be very difficult to overcome. And we've seen that in recent years with how they've started.
Which again, they've shown us that's their MO.
Yeah.
The first 6 games, 4 at home, and I think 4 against non-playoff teams.
Yep.
But the only playoff teams are Denver and
the Rams.
So after those first 2, then you're at Tennessee. They're in transition now. Maybe Cam Ward just goes off the charts early. I don't know. Normally it takes a month.
CJ Stroud is the exception to the rule. You hope there's not 2 exceptions in your division.
Yeah, wouldn't that be wild?
But then at the Rams have incredibly retooled on the run.
I think that's going to be a tough game. Right. Like I look at the Rams, they were a team last year. They gave the Eagles their toughest battle in the playoffs. I think that's a really good team.
But then you're home again with the Raiders and the Cardinals.
Yep.
And everybody says, well, this is Kyler Murray's breakout year. Okay,
I'll believe that when I see it.
Right now, it'll be fun to have Marvin Jr. back here. He's been back to Indy, and he was even here last year with the joint practices at Grant Park. So again, this is a very good, a very team-friendly schedule, with the caveat: if the quarterback situation is stabilized, if it's
you got to bring up the quarterbacks.
Yeah,
but you have to.
You
right.
You have to. I like this schedule. Miami Denver. If not for a brain fade by Jonathan Taylor, the Colts are more than likely in the playoffs, and the Broncos aren't. So I like the schedule, but only if the quarterback situation, it'll be settled. I mean, there'll be a starter, but then that guy has to play at some level of competence, and we could argue till heck freezes over. I know we can't do that, but you have to have some level of play by the quarterback, and if they get that, I think this is a playoff team. If they don't, it's going to be a long year.
Matt put together some great stats for us, Matt, and one of them on here is just one of the embarrassing streaks the Colts have. They haven't not won a season opener since 2013, and that was against a Terrell Pryor-led Oakland Raiders team at the time, who have now, of course, transitioned to Vegas since then.
A lot of bad streaks in here.
There are for sure, but this is the first one that we get to because it's the first of the season, and like. You talk to the Colts about these streaks that they have, and this is the first one, and they say, well, this is not that team. And they're not wrong about these things, but when you haven't won 11 first games in a row, that is a bit of a trend, you think. Yeah.
It's an organizational trend.
Exactly. It's not just a team problem. There is an organizational problem that has not been fixed yet.
And that's what's so weird about it. It's different rosters, it's different coaching staff,
different quarterbacks,
different quarterbacks, and that goes back to the Grigson era as well.
Yep.
So different general manager as well. So it's just befuddling. It's just one of those things.
So that's the first streak the Colts will have an opportunity to kick to the curb this year. Let's continue on with the schedule a little bit. We kind of talked about those first 6 games, Chap. The 2 at home, 2 on the road, 2 back at home. First of all, that first road trip, back-to-back road games, that's not too tough because it's the Titans, which is just a quick jump away.
5 hours
exactly. They're going to take a plane, of course, and they'll be there in 30 minutes or whatever. And then the Rams game, that's longer, but that back-to-back road swing is not too difficult. They're going to have a tougher one later in the year. In week 7, they are back in L.A. facing the Chargers. The second time they're against, again, another Pro Bowl caliber quarterback in Justin Herbert, and the second year under Coach Jim Harbaugh there. But then it's back home to face the Tennessee Titans at the Pittsburgh Steelers at 1 p.m. And then
as much as we wonder who the quarterback is going to be here,
Pittsburgh is
Pittsburgh.
What's
exactly.
going on there? Absolutely.
So who knows what they're going to be come week 9? I think that the two teams in this first kind of half of the schedule that have the biggest question marks. Obviously, I mean the Titans are kind of there because they have the rookie number 1 overall pick, but I think the Steelers, because who knows who their quarterback is going to be, and the Raiders because they're under just different leadership under Pete Carroll. They drafted Ashton Genty. They're going to try to really change their identity there, and they went out and got Geno Smith, who was having a pretty good last couple of years in Seattle. That's a team that I think could surprise some people in this first half of the Colts schedule.
And they've got the tight end that the Colts wish they had.
Right, indeed, absolutely. In Brock Bowers. And that's going to be, well, hopefully, knock on wood, a matchup of two really good tight ends there.
Tight ends, right?
Exactly. Yeah. The Colts fans will try to be painting that brush right now, but Tyler Warren has a little something to prove there before we can
He's
say
112 receptions behind
right.
Brock Bowers.
Yes, that's for sure. And then they close out the pre-bye portion of their schedule. Week 10, Sunday, November 9th, in Berlin, Germany, against the Atlanta Falcons on the NFL Network. And I don't think coincidentally this day, Sunday, November 9th, is a day that will leave an infamy, chap, in Germany's history, because on November 9th, years and years and years ago, was the day the Berlin Wall fell. And the NFL will play its first ever game in Berlin, Germany, inside Olympic Stadium, where Jesse Owens made his Olympic runs. Yes, back in the day.
It was in 1936.
Yes, back in a different time in Germany's past, we will say. And it's just unique how storylines kind of make themselves, and the NFL is, I'm sure, kind of dipped into this to make it
never
more.
Thought about it.
Oh, right? Who knows? Yeah.
Since you brought up, I hope that around that time that the younger generation gets to revisit that time, that like 1936, and what went on, because most of the young crowd now doesn't really understand the world as it was, and that'd be such a great historical tool to go back and remind people what went on and how Jesse Owens just stood up and said, "Oh, really?" But it's kind of a great historical time, and I had forgotten about the Berlin Wall coming down until it was mentioned a day or two ago. But it's hard to imagine the NFL scheduled it like that. I mean, because it had to be the right date,
right?
But again, it's another idea. It's another example of the NFL just having PR, information.
Wherewithal.
Right.
Yes.
So good for them.
That brings us to a Week 11 bye, and it's a little bit earlier, chap, than we've seen some buys for the Colts in recent years. This seems to be a pretty good time for a bye week. It's right after your super long trip overseas to Berlin, so it gives you time to relax there.
The last time they went overseas, well, not the last time, but the first time with London,
right?
I believe they did not have their bye.
So I think they elected not to do it,
because you do have that choice. But with Berlin, though, you certainly
would want to do that. And then B, why this is a good time for a bye, is it comes before a road trip to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. Now, I know the Colts have had some success in the regular season against the Chiefs.
That's a squirrely series.
Exactly.
But a fluke. It's a fluke. Let's just face it.
But you want a bye week before you face the reigning AFC champions.
Didn't they beat them in 2022?
They did. In that year, 2022.
In the year that we tend to want to forget.
And nothing else happened in 2022.
Yeah, the cursed season of 2022, as I often refer to it. Yes, they
beat Patrick Mahomes
and Chiefs on their home field that time. This one will be in Kansas City, where they beat them in the regular season in 20.
They're 2-0 in the regular season against Mahomes.
Was that 2018 that they played
19,
them?
I believe
2019 under in the Jacoby Brissett year in 2019.
Right. It's when
Kamoko Toure
was having a great season, and he blew out his ankle and has not been the same.
No, exactly. And he's no longer an Indianapolis Colt here. So that brings us through Week 12. Week 13, November 30th, as we close out November. They finally get a second team in the AFC South. They've already played both games at this point against the Tennessee Titans, but no games yet against the Texans or the Jaguars. Well, that changes over the next 2 weeks here. Week 13 is going to be at home against the Houston Texans. And then Week 14 is the date that will live in infamy, Sunday, December 7th, quite literally for the Colts as well. I'm sorry, that it might be a little insensitive. So if you get it, I do. If you are, I'll just say that it's a date that the Colts will have to try to overcome something that has been historically challenging for them and win in Jacksonville.
So even the most Colts heavy fan, you can anticipate a 12-0 start.
Yeah.
And then it would end in Jacksonville.
It'll end in Jacksonville.
Duval. That will be on his.
Thank you. Poor Liam.
But again, it's what was it? 2015 was the last win down there.
2014
was the last one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, because 2015 is when they had the halftime lead, and then ended up getting beat 51-16. So, but yeah, again, they're going to say, but we weren't. It's an issue until it's not an issue. It just is.
Mm-hmm.
Win down there, and as we've talked about here, and as you've seen most of them, it makes no sense. None.
Yeah.
Andrew Luck was down there with a offense that was probably top 10. They were scoring 24, 25 points a game, and they got shut out 6-0.
That was the only game that they lost in that second half of the season after the 1-5 start. They went 9-1 down the stretch, made the playoffs, lost to a Cody Kessler-led Jacksonville Jaguars team 6-0. Because
and they lose the season opener one year to Jacksonville?
Yes. That's a double dipper there.
Then Jacksonville went over.
They did. They went 1-15 that year. That was Gardner Minshew. That was 2020.
Gardner Minshew.
That was the only stadium that day that had fans in it in Jacksonville.
It's a series that had Gardner Minshew winning and losing. Well, winning and losing against the Colts.
Yep.
In Jacksonville for the Colts in Jacksonville.
Yep.
Crazy. It's just it makes no sense.
Zero.
None.
So now we're through week 14 of the season. This is the first back-to-back kind of long-ish road trip here, week 14 and 15. First at Jacksonville, and then the next week they go to Seattle out west. That's a 4:25 kickoff there in week 15 in Seattle against Darnold and the Seahawks. And then after that, it's a home primetime game. Will wonders never cease? The Colts get a game at home in primetime on Monday Night Football, nevertheless, December 22nd, Week 16, hosting the San Francisco 49ers. And although, Chap, the 49ers will count against this schedule as a team that is that it was 6-11, I believe, last year. And so that goes to making the schedule seem like it's a little bit easier. This is a San Francisco franchise that is expecting to win 12 or 13 games a year like they had the past couple seasons and not be downtrodden by injuries and problems like they were last year. That's going to be a tough game.
But it's also a team that's in transition.
It is.
They either traded or didn't re-sign or cut like 8 or 9 starters.
They did.
Charvarius Ward is
one of them, yes.
And we're still waiting for Brock Purdy's $50 million contract, which I'm telling you, if I'm Frisco,
get it done. It's only going up.
Get it done, but my goodness, it's not like
you better be sure that he's the guy. It's better not be Daniel Jones.
Very risky,
but New York Giants.
Right? Is he a system guy? Can he carry you? And then Christian McCaffrey played 4 games last year.
Right.
If at one point it was like chronic arthritis in his knees or Achilles. Chronic is not a good thing.
No, you don't want that at all.
So we'll see. But it's a team that, again, a lot of people are saying they're going to have the big bounce back. We'll see. At least you've got them at home, and the Colts have had some decent success with the Niners. But these last 4 or 5 games with 6 games, I guess it is, with 4 division games with Houston and Jacksonville, you hope that you had better be playing for something in December.
After the San Francisco 49ers on Monday Night Football, Week 17, the Colts take on the Jaguars inside Lucas Oil Stadium. And as bad as the Colts have been against the Jaguars on the road, they've been much better at home. I think they've won 6 of the last 7 games as the home team in this rivalry against the Jaguars. And then Week 18, on a date and time to be determined by the NFL, the Colts will host the Houston Texans. No, they'll be at the Houston Texans. I can read here.
It's weird how they inversed the boxes.
Yes.
It's no problem.
All good. So that's my mistake there. And it's at Houston Texans. And like Chap, you look at what happens after the bye, and it becomes increasingly clear to me that the games before the bye are so important to get off to a good start. So you're not trying to claw back in the second half of the season, because you have these quarterbacks on your schedule that are winning quarterbacks. Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes. Houston Texans, CJ Stroud. You have the Seattle Seahawks have Sam Darnold, who had a heck of a season last year. Does he continue that? To be determined, obviously. San Francisco 49ers, Brock Purdy, who has had a couple good years last year, had reasons for not having one. And then the Houston Texans, C.J. Stroud again to close out the season.
And you didn't mention Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence. And
that's one that, I was trying to do.
At some point, he's got to step up and be that guy.
Right. He did a couple years ago when they won the division, right. So he has that in him. I was trying to do the other quarterbacks who I think have a little bit more opportunity or more consistency or more expectation to have that in them. But you're right. I mean, if Trevor Lawrence has a year like he is capable of having, then throw him in there for 2 games down the stretch, and he is the quote unquote easiest quarterback during this home stretch of the season. Everyone else you would think is going to be pretty darn tough. Injuries, of course, at this point of the year, very much in the picture as well. But
in that last game against Houston, if this team again, if is what you hope it can be or thinks it should be, maybe that game is one where I remember when Franks was at first or second year, when they flexed the Colts at Houston or at Tennessee.
Yep,
the last game of the season,
right
on that Sunday night. You want that game to mean something,
right?
And I still contend this is a playoff roster, depending on the quarterback play.
That is a big depending on. Just
I know.
Just throwing that out
by
there.
the way,
yeah. So much here to look forward to. Things that we've known already. The Colts will have the 25th easiest schedule. In terms of 2024's win percentage, their opponent's win percentage here is .464. So that's what happens when you don't make the playoffs.
It's the 7th easiest schedule.
So that's
25th.
You're right.
It ranks 25th in.
It ranks 25th in strength of schedule, which makes it the 7th easiest.
Thank you for the clarification.
Which either means something or not. Like you said, that some of these teams will be better.
Yes.
Will be better. But that's just a nugget you have to go on.
It is.
Because most of those teams are like the Colts. They've made some significant changes to their rosters, and you just really can't. They've drafted players. You don't know the impact those players are going to have. So, but it's the only metric that we've got because that's what's there. The season had started.
They do play the AFC West and the NFC West this year, and the AFC West was probably the best division in football last year. They got 3 teams into the playoffs, and the NFC West was battling till the very end between the Seahawks and the Rams. And like I said, the Rams had as good a close to the season as anyone last year, and just couldn't keep up with the Eagles in the playoffs. I thought that they were playing great football at the end of the season, and they are certainly going to try to keep that momentum going into next year themselves. But that's the Colts schedule right there, and I think it's intriguing. It is not overly ridiculous. There are some. The Chiefs schedule was. I was talking about this with someone we work with Eric Graves, a little bit here at the station, and it was like the Chiefs have to play on Thanksgiving. They have to play on Christmas. They have to play in Sao Paulo early in the year for the opener. Like that's a tough schedule on them, on everyone who has to cover them. Like that, they're going to be kind of put through the gauntlet a little bit. And whether it's mentally having to work on these days that like they get to play a game, so you can certainly say that. But at the same time, like these are human beings who want to spend time with their families. Right. They try to get these moments in during the season, and playing on multiple holidays is something that's asked of you if you are under the spotlight. And the Chiefs are. They've been good for a long time. This is what you get, I guess.
Part of the deal, right?
Yeah.
It goes back to the Peyton Manning years. They played 7 or 8 primetime games
every dang year.
Because that's why recently the Colts have had like 15 1:00 games. That's you earn is the one primetime game. That's what you get when you don't give them a reason to reward you. But no, that's great teams, and that's what the Chiefs are. I still have a problem with like Dallas being on as much as they are, and like that. I just quit forcing that team down my throat.
Stop trying to make fetch happen.
Right.
Yeah. But let them win something, and then put them on 5 times.
Right.
And
because at some point it gets to where you put them on and people are laughing at them because they're not.
Which is fun for some people, for some fan bases, enjoyed watching the Cowboys lose.
But no, when you're Mahomes and what is it, 5 of the 6 Super Bowls they've been in, something like that, the last
Last 6 years.
And they won 3.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you get. And you expect you're going to play that Thursday night game, and you're going to play on all those funky dates. That's one of the byproducts of stardom.
More likely streak to end, Mike Chappell, the home opener streak, winless in 11 straight, or the road losses to Jacksonville, 10 in a row?
Home.
You think so?
I think
the first one
better. Yeah,
because you're at home at least, number one.
Right.
That helps.
Your home in Miami is sort of, as much as we say how this is a very team-friendly start to the season with the Colts, other teams look at the Colts the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got the Colts early on, and who knows what they're going to be.
They don't know what their quarterback's doing.
But I just think this is the year that they finally win their home opener and get that one. Jacksonville, I'm not. This is the Las Vegas thing where you bet on streaks to continue until they end.
Yeah, the how other teams will look at the Colts. I'm glad you brought it up because I think that's important to note when you're looking at a schedule like this too. Like they're looking at them like not
like
maybe similar, like
homecoming
sort
at
of
college.
Like because like we were talking about Trevor Lawrence a little bit earlier. Like neither of these quarterbacks you feel like has. If it's anything, it's at that level. It's certainly no higher than that type of a threat. If they're coming into your place, if you have to visit them here in Indianapolis, so
you're talking Richardson and Jones,
exactly. But between Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones, are they talented quarterbacks? Sure, they are because they're a starting quarterback in the NFL. They're one of the best 32 quarterbacks in the world, But when it comes to like who scares you on this roster, like I said, like you're going up against these playoff teams, so many of them on the road. Like Patrick Mahomes is one that you circle on your calendar. Like Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones is not necessarily. They're the one of them that you say you hope to win, and then the other teams are saying you hope to win these games against the Colts, and then he's like, well, maybe we can steal a couple of these other ones, against these playoff teams, against these playoff quarterbacks who've been there before.
When you look at it, you want to say how many times will the Colts have the best quarterback on the field? And not as often as what you would hope with this schedule. It's just, I mean,
like Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa. I mean, he's been a Pro Bowler before, but has also suffered concussions upon concussions, and I don't know what he's going to be.
I don't know.
Bo Nix certainly had a decent first rookie year. Was better than Anthony Richardson last year. He led his team to the playoffs. I
was going to say, if the Colts had quarterback play of Bo Nix last year,
no question.
Right.
If they had the quarterback play of Gardner Minshew of 2023,
they're in.
They make it.
So there's two off the bat that you would say either no or maybe. Tennessee Titans, you would hope yes, because they have just because it's a rookie, but you never know. Rams, no. Raiders with Geno Smith, no. Arizona Cardinals, no. Kyler Murray. Chargers, no. Justin Herbert. Tennessee Titans, another yes. Steelers, we don't know who's going to be their quarterback. If it's Mason Rudolph, then yes,
perhaps,
or Skylar Thompson, or Will Howard,
but if it's going to be someone else who has been maybe a multi-time Pro Bowl or MVP candidate, then I would say obviously no. Right. You come back, Kansas City Falcons rather with Michael Penix Jr. Probably the Colts, but we'll leave a little bit of room for Penix. But I would say yes.
You would hope yes.
Yes, exactly. I would say yes in that scenario. But then the Chiefs, no. Texans, no. Jaguars, no. Not that Trevor Lawrence is a world beater, but no. Seahawks, no. 49ers, no. Jaguars, no. Texans, no. So there's all these no's down the stretch. Like
I
said,
was probably 10 no's.
So you got to take advantage of earlier, and you've got to help Richardson reach his potential if it's Richardson or Daniel Jones in this scenario.
This is like the 500-mile race where you need to get yourself in position over the first 400 miles.
Yes.
So the last 100 miles mean something.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, this schedule is not conducive to fighting your way back. It's conducive to having that good start and then battling and then just finding a way to win. I don't know, 3 games, 4 games down the stretch.
You're watching the Colts Blue Zone Podcast on Fox 59 now. Plenty of other stuff going on besides the Colts schedule release, although we should talk about the preseason first as well. The Colts do have 3 preseason games this year, 2 of them on the road. They will begin in Baltimore, 7 p.m. Thursday, August 7th. They return home to take on the Green Bay Packers, 1 p.m. Saturday, August 16th, and will close out in the typical game at Cincinnati against the Bengals at 1 p.m. Saturday, August 23rd.
The only thing that's not typical about it for the last couple of years is that's a game where starters might play more.
Right.
That's the 3rd preseason game. Then you got the break. Also, with this schedule, they will have a joint workout with somebody, whether that's going to be home with Green Bay, which I prefer.
That'd be great.
Or in Cincinnati like they did last year.
Last year, I think they had two, didn't they?
They had Arizona come in, and then they had Cincinnati. And either one at Cincinnati is not bad because we would drive down for the joint practice. But again, this is a different preseason because they're going to need to play their two quarterbacks a bunch. They just will.
Yep.
Risk of injury, okay, yes, but you've got to figure out who your guy is.
So if you're a Colts fan who has season tickets or wants to see an NFL caliber play, maybe you do get a little bit in that second preseason game at home here against the Packers. And of course, the past couple of years, as the Colts have hosted a team during the preseason, during training camp, they've had 2 days of really battling back and forth with that team leading up to the game.
And then they don't play much in that game.
Exactly. That's kind of how it's been for the most part. But you'll see, if you're up in Westfield, you'll get to see Jordan Love up there. You'll get to see the Packers team.
If it's Green Bay.
Because
it could be Cincy.
Yeah. And I think that they might do both again. I think teams come down to Indy, and it's a good setup out at Westfield. And they get a little bit of working in front of the fans, because we've talked about this before here on the Colts Blue Zone podcast, that not every team has a public training camp
or
anymore.
They'll have 3 open practices,
right?
Whatever. Right.
So they do a lot that's more closed behind closed doors, or at least with only the media there available to watch it. So they like a little bit of that opportunity to come to a place that has a little bit more of a spotlight on them to see how their guys react in that sense. We've seen that with some other teams over the past couple of years. So like I said, Baltimore, Green Bay, Cincinnati, and like Mike said, there's probably going to be some more time this year in the preseason to determine the starting unit, especially on offense, because you're going to need it. You're going to need to find out who your quarterback is. And you cannot just put guys on ice in preseason games, because this is the time, this is the scenario, these are the situations that you need to test them in. It's not just when things are fully controlled for you in the preseason, in training camp. They need to be involved in games. They need to be able to see those live bullets and be able to respond to them in turn. And the Colts coaching staff is going to have to make a decision based on those games, not just all the other stuff, all the controlled scenarios, as to who's going to start for the
training camp is controlled. It
Very
is.
much so.
I mean, you get out there ones-on-ones, and it's competitive, sometimes too much when Nick Cross takes out Josh Downs.
Let's not do that, please.
Let's not do that.
Again.
Let's not. Yeah.
But what's going to be interesting is, at what point does Shane Steichen name his starting quarterback? Is it after the second preseason game? Is it
after the third?
After the third?
Yeah.
So, and as I said, it'll be, and he's our starter for now. But that's why, as much as they can get done in training camp, I don't think we'll see much in off-season workouts, even the OTAs or better mini camp. It's training camp, and it's these preseason games, and they have to play because they have to figure it out, and they have to be sold on a game. Mm-hmm. If it's 50-50 and we're going with Richardson, then are they, and is he looking over his shoulder for every sailed pass? Are they looking to bring in Jones? So it's a very important. And again, you've got rookies that are going to have to play. Tyler Warren, JT
Tuimoloau.
We should just do this. You can finish.
I know what you're looking for. I got you.
And even the Wally, the corner. These guys are going to be expected to play. So the proving ground will be the training camp, but the preseason games.
Yeah. So it's going to take a little bit of time to do that. You think that 1 week of training camp plus another week of training camp and the first preseason game is probably not going to be enough. Unlike a couple years ago when that was enough to name the starting quarterback of your Indianapolis Colts.
Which now, in hindsight, they regret doing.
Captain Hindsight says that you shouldn't have done that. Yes.
Well, but you did, and we shouldn't go down that quarterback.
He has the power of tremendous hindsight. The Colts have announced that Tyler Warren and 6 other members of the 2025 draft class have signed their deals only second-round pick, JT Tuimoloau, remains unsigned as we record here on Thursday afternoon. So it's very much a foregone conclusion, Chap, as we've talked before, that these draft picks are going to sign. There are slotted deals that guys get done. If you're drafted at a certain place, there's about a certain number that you're going to get, and the Colts have done their business to take care of almost everybody already.
The only thing that keeps like the second round picks, all of them from signing second round picks, especially, is how much do you guarantee? And normally, I went back and looked, and last year's second round pick, A.D. Mitchell, got like 65% of his contract guaranteed. First round picks are guaranteed,
right? Fully.
But second round's not. Well, at least 2 second round picks this year ahead of JT have fully guaranteed contracts.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Which is something owners do not want to get into doing. They just don't.
So owners look at that and they say, "What the heck, guys?"
Right.
Like, to the other owners who are making these deals.
And then there's other things that it's how do you pay the signing bonus in full? Is there an offset in the contract? So there are some things to work out, but he will get X number of dollars because that's what the slotting says. But there are a few things. This shouldn't drag on. If it does, it's no big deal because he's there for their workouts now. But this will get taken care of.
I was just going to say that the guys, my understanding, the guys that signed the guaranteed deals, they were essentially their team's first-round picks. They were early picks in the second round. They had given up their first-round picks, so kind of as an accommodation for those guys.
Houston was one of them, I think.
Right,
yes.
and Cleveland, I think.
The Browns did make the 5th overall pick, though, still. Like, they traded down, and they still drafted Mason Graham up there near the top. But he was still a high second-round pick at that point. He was like 34th maybe or something like that because he was pretty high up there.
He was pretty high. He went – because that was a guy that some folks thought the Colts would. It's
Carson Schwessinger, the linebacker from UCLA,
the linebacker, and thought he would fit in well with the Colts system. But he went a
Colts
little bit higher.
They really
liked him. And it sounded like they did like him. He went a little bit higher than perhaps he was expected to, and because other teams were high on him as well.
Yeah, Browns liked him too. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what he does here. So JT Tuimoloau did, of course, participate in rookie minicamp last week, as you would expect. You got to be signed then to participate after that. Is how it works, Chap. Correct? It's like if you want it, or can you do OTAs?
It's training camp. You can do OTAs.
You can do all the OTAs.
You cannot be.
Right, not a training camp.
Right, you have to be under contract.
Because there were some players who did not sign their rookie deals that just sat out, not for the Colts, but for other teams, like the Bengals' top pick, Shamar Stewart. Yeah. He sat out. They don't have a deal with him yet, so he sat out the rookie minicamp.
And they signed injury waivers.
That's weak sauce to me that you sit out your rookie minicamp. I mean, come
exactly.
on, like everyone
they have injury settlements and stuff like that, just in case that were to happen. So
whatever.
But there were a couple players that did that. But Tuimoloau.
There you
JT. Almost. I was practicing it. I wasn't going to debut it in public, then I tried and I shouldn't have.
You got too confident.
Got too close to the sun there. But yeah, he didn't sign, but he's still there at rookie minicamp. So that's a good sign. I think it's probably a discussion he's having with his agent of, hey, these two guys got guaranteed money. Maybe we can get a little bit more guaranteed since this precedent is here.
The Colts also have handed out numbers to their rookie draft picks and really all the rookies who are out there at a rookie minicamp the other week. But the draft picks, Tyler Warren will wear the famous number 84.
Sainted number 84.
It was not retired after Jack Doyle's career.
Maybe it should have been. But no, Tyler Warren will get the chance to don that and live up to the reputation that Jack left.
The worst he is Jack Doyle. Okay.
You'd rather have him be a first-round pick, be a little bit better, but you'll take Jack Doyle.
Hey, given what we've seen from the Colts tight end room lately, we'll take it.
Like a Pro Bowl tight end who earned two-time Pro Bowl tight end who earned two or three additional contracts. Yes, with the team. So yeah, like you can do infinitely worse than that in the NFL, as we have seen.
This is not a knock on Jack. He was one of the more underappreciated players that's come through here.
Mm-hmm.
But Warren needs to be more. Warren needs to be
dynamic. Doyle was not
closer to Dallas Clark than Jack Doyle.
He was consistent. He was efficient. He was better than, like you said, he was underappreciated.
What a great blocker.
Yes. Warren needs to be dynamic, exceptional, and consistently among the best in the NFL from the standpoint of where he was taken. JT Tuimoloau will wear number 91. So Zaire Franklin holds on to the number 44. Those two guys.
Tyler Warren said he really didn't think he had any cachet to go to Franklin and say, hey, what about that number?
Yeah, it's true. I don't think you really do either. No. So Zaire's a team captain for a while, and he'll be holding on to the 44, which of course is legendary in the Syracuse program where Zaire came from himself. Justin Wally will wear number 27. He was number 5 back in college in Minnesota, but Anthony Richardson's going to hold on to number 5 for now. Wally.
You had to say that.
Well, because that's what Shane Steichen's going to say when he names a starting quarterback. He's going to say for now, like you always say.
I'm talking about maybe him not starting. You're talking about him not being here.
For now, Justin Wally will wear number 27, the old Xavier Rhodes number there in the secondary. And if he has a career like Xavier Rhodes, who had a couple of Pro Bowl appearances in
David Macklin, maybe. I'm trying to think of guys who were 27. Whenever I see numbers, my mind flashes back.
Right?
Yeah.
Guys.
Jalen Travis, 4th round pick offensive tackle, wears number 75. He was 72 in college, but that's Braden Smith's number, so he's hanging on to that for now as well. See, it's not just Anthony Richardson. I'm talking about other guys as well whose future with the team is okay. DJ Giddens, number 21. He was 31 in college. He's a bigger Nyheim Hines, but if he could catch the ball like Nyheim Hines, that would be fantastic and add that little wrinkle to the Colts game, which they have not used as much in recent years. Since Nyheim Hines really left, he was very effective in that game. And even Jonathan Taylor, his best year catching the ball was 2021. His best year period was 2021 in doing everything, but in catching the ball, he actually had a pretty decent year that year too. Riley Leonard was 13 in college. He wears number 15. Is that respect to TY? Is there anyone else on the roster who's 13 right now? I don't think there is.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Didn't want the Mike Vanderjagt number.
Yeah, that too. But the TY number is the more recent one, of course.
For sure.
So Riley takes number 15. Tim Smith, the defensive lineman out of Alabama, will wear number 93. He was number 50 in college.
Pretty good player. Has worn 93.
One or two out there. Pretty good. I was about to say the most recent one, I think Eric Walden wore it recently.
My mind flashes at
who?
Another Syracuse
Who?
guy.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. I got you to say it this time.
Freeney. Yeah.
Dwight Freeney, number 93. And Hunter Wohler, the 7th round pick out of Wisconsin, goes with number 30. He was number 24 back in college. So the number 30 will be out there as a linebacker / safety hybrid at some point. And we'll see.
I think he's a safety.
You think so? Chap's saying that what the Colts told us on draft night is hogwash.
It sounds like they've gone back and forth.
There's a story behind that was told off the record.
Okay, no, that's fine. Yeah,
I think they look at him more. And again, from talking to Lou Anarumo, we're going to see different formations and schemes with fewer linebackers and more DBs, more DB heavy, cornerback heavy. Which when's the last time this team had a deep enough cornerback room to play 4 or 5 out there?
Yeah, I was really surprised, or not surprised, but it just sounds like essentially for many of the looks that Lou Anarumo is going to use, they're just like linebackers optional. They need to address the position. It's not that they don't need to do that, but really for them, it is having a dynamic group of defensive backs that they can use in a lot of different ways.
But then how much of it too is it they don't have enough linebackers?
Could be. Could be that.
If you're going to play a 3-4, you better have a bunch of linebackers.
Very true.
And they won't have Zaire, or they won't have Jalen Carlisle for most of the OT or most of the offseason work because of surgeries. Right. Carlisle, I think, will do some. I don't think Zaire will do anything until training camp.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you mentioned that. I forgot to put that in the notes that Zaire, we learned he had an ankle
had his ankle cleaned up.
A procedure.
Yes. It's whenever they break the skin, folks, it's not a procedure, it's surgery. So
Chap speaks from experience.
Yeah, and whenever they stick an IV in you to put you to sleep, it's more than just something. But again, it on one hand, it's good that Zaire is going to be out because you'll get a look at the other guys, but then he's got to be ready for training camp, and you just never know from surgery. And he's getting, what is he, 30-ish?
He's got to be getting there. Yeah.
So, but we've hopefully he'll be fine, and until he's not, we'll expect him to be fine.
Speaking of putting an IV in you to put someone to sleep, I know this is not on our notes here, but it was a story this week on social media. Anthony Richardson got a full back tattoo.
I retweeted that, and then I was corrected that was done last year.
It was done last year?
Right. It was done in 2024.
Then why is this doing the rounds on social media now?
Because somebody posted it, and then idiots like me reposted it, and somebody said, that was in 2024.
Golly, chap.
I know.
Well, thank you for correcting me then, because I saw it again doing the rounds on social media. I was like, oh, that's cool, and I kind of stashed it in the back of my mouth.
From last year, because
I don't remember that.
Very ornate.
It's the entire back. It's the entire back.
Yeah, it's the entire back.
So you led me astray. Is what you're
apologize.
saying.
So unless he decided he didn't like that design and went and got a brand new one, I don't think it's the same.
I just boy, to be put under for a tattoo, that's massive.
It's a big tattoo. So we don't need to talk about that too much more then. So we probably talked about that last year on the podcast.
I'm pretty sure that we did.
I don't remember doing it. That completely escaped my mind. There's too much going on. I've been at the track.
My memory's mush anyway, so I apologize.
I mean, you know how it is, Dave. When you're doing stuff, you just and Mike, you're the same way. You lose track of when did this thing happen. I write for the website. Sometimes I'll write 7-8 stories a day, and when you stack that up over the course of a month. Mm-hmm. It feels like 3 years have passed. You just don't remember what you did last week. So no biggie. No biggie.
But I remember 2022. I remember Kansas City.
Exactly. They beat Kansas City.
Yeah, you do remember weird things. Yes,
here and there. We'll continue to hear from the Colts over the coming weeks as OTAs continue in Indianapolis. Their workouts are May 28th to 30th, June 3rd through 5th. They have a mandatory mini camp on June 10th through the 12th before some time off there, about a month and a half or so before coming back for training camp. Chap, we've already talked to, a good number of Colts out there at team headquarters over the past couple weeks. Are there players that we haven't spoken with yet that you are in particular looking forward to talking to, whether it's new players to the roster who you think can like work their way into being important players, or maybe guys who are coming up on contract years, guys who you think need to be important on this team that we haven't spoken with yet, that maybe are taking increased roles or need to improve their roles? Who out there are you intrigued about hearing from in these weeks to come over the offseason program?
Well, next Wednesday we get assistant coaches.
Mm-hmm. Reggie.
Look,
it's always fun.
Reggie's always one because he's just good, and he's got a room that is solid. But you need, AD Mitchell needs to grow into being a pro, which he didn't last year. But I think it's important to talk to Tony Sperano Jr., the offensive line coach, and the quarterback coach. I'm not sure how much they would tell us player wise. At some point, we're going to get Braden Smith because we will, and how much he will go into what he went through. Joel Erickson had a fantastic story.
Yep.
From Braden Smith. I don't think Braden goes that deep again.
Yeah, he's already been there once.
Which is fine. I think that's fine. But you need Braden. I don't know, Bernhard Raimann. My mind always goes to offensive players because it just does.
Yeah.
But this, maybe at some point this offseason, Bernie gets his contract extension.
Mm-hmm.
Defensively, we talked to Buck. We've talked to Zaire. We've talked to Kenny Moore. We've talked to Travarius Ward and Cam Bynum. So I'm not sure who else. Kwity Paye, I suppose.
Juju Brents.
We talked to Juju. It's crazy how he has turned into such an afterthought in the secondary. And if he can come back and play close to the level that they saw as a second-round pick, then that room is really in good shape. I think the team, I'm not sure how you can project or plan on him because of his lack of availability. Remember, he came back for the last game last year and played like 6 plays, and he had a hamstring injury,
right?
Like a groin or hamstring. Those are the main ones. We haven't talked to the 2 rookies from last year, Bortolini and Gonzalez, and they're going to be guys. They
better be.
They better be guys.
Saying, yeah.
Yes, they've lost Ryan Kelly and Will Fries, but they drafted knowing that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the main thing. We were supposed to get Quentin last week and we didn't. We got Alec Pierce instead. You were out at the track. Did he drive the?
He wasn't driving. He was in the 2-seater.
Okay.
So he was in the fastest seat in sports.
Okay.
When somebody else is driving. I think it was Davey Hamilton, the old driver, is taking him around in a modified 2-seater Indy car around.
But he's had a great off season.
He got to throw out the first pitch at the Cubs game. Now he's in the 2-seater,
and he won a NFLPA golf tournament. So, and he was going to be at Kentucky Derby. So,
and he's bound to be a free agent wide receiver after this season.
Yes.
We've seen what those kind of guys make.
And the Colts think he's going to command a big contract.
Mm-hmm.
Big's the relative term,
right?
We thought Michael Pittman had a big contract until like 6 other guys signed.
Until 2 days later.
Until they got larger somehow.
Every day he kept going down. So that's the main thing. We've talked to the main players, and we talked to Anthony Richardson. Daniel Jones we haven't since his introductory, which I'm not sure what we would get out of him now.
Mm-hmm.
But people are going to get so tired of hearing it. We talked about with the schedule. As long as the quarterback is an issue, it just dwarfs everything else.
Yep.
Because it does. Jonathan Taylor had 1,800 yards the one year. They didn't make the playoffs because they didn't get good enough quarterbacks. So
I think there's a couple other reasons, but we can debate that, and we have debated that at other times. But,
well, if the quarterback had played better at the end,
if other people had played better at the end too,
okay. You're going to ride that 27-7 guy to the but no, that's
27-7 would be pretty good this year. Would you take 27-7?
Yes.
Yeah, so would I.
Yes, I would.
Just saying.
So, but this is one where I think we both have good arguments. But the owner has the only decision.
He's the one that has the say. Yeah. Exactly.
Yes.
And we all know what he thinks about the matter.
I've still got the recording of my talk with him after that season, and I could have blown the top off of everything if I had posted that story, but I can't. Secrets are no fun. Right. When you're told something off the record, doggone it, it's off the record.
It's got to stay off the record.
So, but no, it's going to be interesting. The rest of the offseason is sort of interesting only because you want to see how certain players progress, but until they get to training camp, when you see these quarterbacks playing more football, it's just going to be just projection without knowing with that caveat that's going to be there.
Yeah, what about you, Matt? Who do you think you're interested from hearing from over these next couple weeks of the offseason? Like Chet went and mentioned just about every other player who's starting on the Indianapolis Colts, which to be fair, like there's not as many anymore. But I think Juju Brents, like I said, on offense, I think a guy like Tanner Bortolino will be interesting because he's taking over for Ryan Kelly, who's been here forever. Are there maybe one or two guys that you are intrigued about hearing from?
Like I said, we've heard from all their free agent guys. We've heard from the rookies.
Yeah.
Bortolini and Gonzalez, I think, are I know they're offensive linemen, but I mean, still, they're going to have a big role on the team. They're going to have to fill some very big shoes between Ryan Kelly and Will Fries. I like to hear from Tyquan Lewis. Mm-hmm. He's just one of those guys that's just kind of always there. He's like a glue guy for the team. Carlisle, how's he going to adapt into his a bigger role for the team? I would like to hear from the team a little bit, and maybe Ed Dodds talked a little bit about this. Justin Wally, for their rookie that they picked in the 3rd round, and like some projections were like this is a 6th or 7th round pick. Some projections had him in the 3rd. Obviously, the Colts have a clear vision of how they're going to use this guy, and they're not going to tell us right away exactly what that vision is going to be, but I'm really interested to see kind of where they fell, why they were so interested in this kid.
Mm-hmm. Just questions that we will uncover and unpack throughout the rest of this offseason.
And I was going to mention one more thing.
Yep, go ahead.
If you were, an NFL fan, and obviously if you're listening to this show, hopefully that
probably
you are. Just remember that to watch all of the NFL games, not all the Colts games, those will be aired locally. That's a rule for the local market here. But you'll need NBC, ABC, CBS, of course, and the Fox networks. On top of that, you'll need ESPN, you'll need YouTube, you'll need Prime Video, the NFL Network, and Netflix. So and Peacock as well. Peacock should have exclusive game. I can't remember if it's Week 18 or the playoffs. So just remember to make sure that you've got your subscriptions ready to go by September, because you're going to need all of those venues in order to watch the football games.
I hope the NFL doesn't get to the point that that's where you have to go for your games. I don't think they will.
Right.
Because you just can't alienate a good
one or two games a season, that's on this thing or that's on the other. Because if you're in the local market, those games are guaranteed to be on the local market in some capacity.
Right.
But if you wanted to watch that one playoff game that one year.
Was it Kansas City, Miami?
Yeah, Kansas City, Miami. That was exclusive to Peacock for some reason. Now, we have Peacock. It wasn't a big deal for my household necessarily.
That's when I got that free 1 month subscription.
Right, exactly. It's a good time. Also, don't just go and subscribe to all these things either. Chat brings up a good point. Go ahead and take a look ahead of that schedule. Maybe you've got a free trial that you can use to watch that particular week's
But be
game.
sure you cancel that because then you're going to get hacked the next time.
And most of those things, as soon as you activate your free trial, if you cancel it right away, you still get your free trial period.
Oh.
Some of them aren't. Some of them are like, well, you don't want the free trial, but because they want you to stay on the auto renew so that they don't lose you as a subscriber, so they can still keep paying. It's a great system all the way around.
Yeah, keep that in mind for sure. Well, we'll have plenty more Colts discussion over the coming weeks as the offseason program continues and it rolls on toward eventual training camp, preseason, and the schedule, since we just talked about that mostly today. For Matt Adams, who's at Statomatty on Twitter, Mike Chappell at mchappell51. You can read all his work online, fox59.com, cbs4indy.com. I'm Dave Griffiths at DaveG_sports. We appreciate you listening or watching on Fox 59 now via Apple TV, Fire TV, Roku, or on YouTube as well, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for subscribing. We'll see you next week on the Colts Blue Zone Podcast.